Joe Hagman, curiosity got me too, Kevin. You said you didn't have anything to do a couple months ago, so you wanted to have a DUI case. Did you win or lose it?
It was a split verdict. It was a DUI case and a resisting police case, in where the both are Class A misdemeanors, and the jury found not guilty DUI, guilty of resisting police. It was a taser case.
Just curious.
All right, thank you. That doesn't seem like it needs a reply. Any other questions?
Darin was not the DUI guy, so we
Yes, ma'am, and then you.
Yes, my name is Cynthia Shea. I live on Central by Glen Oak Park, and I would have to say, if I have to declare a party, for me it would be Democrat. So, but having lived in that neighborhood for 5 years, I can see that things have gone downhill. And I'm not a political person, so I can't say I know if you would consider that to be within state's attorney's job, but you know, I hear that all the neighbors know there's maybe as many as 100 Cook County criminals being shipped down to Peoria, and a lot of them end up in our neighborhood. And there was a mother who had her son shot in the back, murdered, and she apparently can't get information from yourself or the state's attorney's office. You know, I wish if she knew about it tonight that maybe she could be here. But you know, I just hear about these things, and this is the first time I've been to this kind of debate. And I'm curious, you know, whether you think it's a problem or I should just move, like a lot of families there have done. You know, what would be a better way to, you know, to tackle the crime issue for normal people living in all neighborhoods of Peoria? Or maybe, as you say, that other counties in Illinois maybe have less crime. You know, if you're comparing bargaining statistics.
Yes, I think it was sort of addressed to you.
I think that when we visit another city, for example, we have a tendency to drive to Chicago. You go up to Stevenson and down Lakeshore Drive, and then down Millionaire or Magnificent Mile and Lincoln Park, and you say, this is a beautiful city. It's a wonderful place. And then you talk to some people in Chicago, they say, I hate Chicago. I don't like you know, we had all these murders. The murder clearance rate in Chicago many times is under 50%. And it's a terrible thing.
What's under 50%?
The clearance rate, in other words, the solving rate for murders. The being able to know who did it, even if they don't convict them. Under 50% sometimes. And I think it's because, I think what happens is that the perception is always different. The perception is different than when you live in. People can say, you got a beautiful house. But you say, you know what, I don't feel safe in my beautiful house.
Right, because I have a beautiful house, but I hear gunshots at night right across the board.
And I have friends who live on Moss Avenue,
right,
in hundreds of thousands of dollar homes. Let's say I hear gunshots in the valley. And I would have to say to you that the state's attorney's office is, and should always, be very considerate about people who want to invest in their home and in their neighborhood and make something bad better. Every state's attorney would want it. Mr. LaHood would want that. Why would they not? But sometimes the state's attorney is put in the awkward position of recognizing that he or she is going to prosecute areas of a town, and they will change. Every city in America is older in the middle going out than from out coming in. That's how America is, because the town starts here, and the building built at year 0 moves out. And now these buildings were built in year 5, in year 10. And what happens to the older neighborhoods? Sometimes people invest, but sometimes people grow old and they leave. There are parts of this city and every city that actually say, Mr. Lyons, I never complained about my real estate taxes. Every year they go down. And most people say, really? Mine go up. Why is that? Because they're in a part of the city that has a growth to it. I regret that every city has those neighborhoods. And I regret that the state's attorney can do parts of that, can address parts of that. But in response to your question, are there persons being shipped down? I hear things like that too. I'm not quite sure what that means, other than I don't think they put them on a bus somewhere in Wicker Park and bring them down and drop them off, you know, at the corner of Pioneer Park or something. But yet, I don't know if the Department of Corrections, I don't believe that's occurring, but yet I do know that older neighborhoods have it more difficult than newer neighborhoods. It's a socioeconomic thing, but I think that when crime happens there, it ought to be vigorously prosecuted, but it's a delicate balance.
So which parts
Well,
are
no, I'm sorry, I'm
addressable?
going to cut you off.
Okay.
You had a question, he had a shot at answering it. Mr. LaHood, would you like to respond to the question about worsening crime in the Glen Oak area?
Yeah, I may stand and stretch out if you don't mind.
Oh, and incidentally, we're winding it up. We'd agreed to leave at about now. So how about after this question and yours, two last questions, if people are willing to stay, you'll be the last person. Then both people can sum up their positions very briefly. We'll be out of here by 8 o'clock. Is that all right with everyone? Another 15. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry to cut you off. Okay.
Thanks, David. To answer your question directly, you know, one thing I've talked about doing in the state's attorney's office is being more proactive, being engaged in the community. And one thing I announced 10 months ago when I announced it's on my website is a community prosecution program. There are certain areas of our county and our city that have high crime areas. And the East Bluff, unfortunately, is one of them. My grandparents lived there until I was about 13 or 14. I know the area well. They lived at Barron's. But we can do things differently. What can the state's attorney's office do? One thing is a community prosecution program. And this isn't anything I came up with. It's been used all over the country. But it's a proactive way to go into some of these areas. And here's how it works. Essentially what you do is you designate a high crime area, whether that's the East Bluff or the West Bluff or the South End or the North Valley. And there's about 30 prosecutors in the state's attorney's office. What you do is you take one of those 30, and as an assistant state's attorney over in Tazewell County, I'll tell you, you get a stack of maybe 40 or 50 cases, and they're from all over the county. Take one prosecutor and put them on the East Bluff, one geographic area. In this community prosecution program, the way it works is you partner up with the schools, the faith-based community, the police officers, the neighborhood groups, the business owners. So you're not reinventing the wheel on every case. So every case you handle is within that one area. And when this has been implemented the proper way around the country, it's had an effect on bringing crime down. And again, I look at how can we bring our crime rate down? What can we do differently? This has worked. Why hasn't this been implemented? And I'm not talking about changing the whole system. I'm talking about let's try it on the East Bluff for a year. Let's try it on the South End. This is something that's worked. It's easy to do. We need to implement it, and it's something that I'll do. On your issue about 100 criminals coming down from Cook County, you know, since I announced this race and well before, many people talk about that. Neighborhood people talk about it. Police officers talk about it. Why isn't somebody looking into it? Somebody like the state's attorney's office. Why aren't they looking into it? Being proactive to find out, is this happening? Is it happening to our community? Why is it happening? And stop it. That's something being proactive. This job is about leadership, and it's about being in the courtroom, and you got to keep our community safe. But you can also be a leader, and you can try different stuff. And I promise you I'll do that if I'm fortunate enough to get elected.